Okay, here's one that's probably gonna mushroom into something
Oh, boy. Oh,
more.
boy.
So whoever wants to, build out, where are we? There's your open-ended 4-hour discussion right now. Peter, what percentage build out are we right now? What do we quote?
We're probably in the low 80s, 82%, maybe something like that.
So, and then we got redevelopment, bunch of other things. Who wants to talk about build out, Aaron?
Sure. Well, so a few things. I mean, it can be, we think of build out right now as pretty finite, right? If you follow the code, we can only build so much. However, with our code currently with workforce housing, there could be a little bit more. Well, this goes back to the hotel conversation too, as far as density goes. What the proposal was for the density for the 4-star hotel was to purchase density. Now we have so many so much backcountry density that could be purchased. That's where some of that elasticity comes from, right? So when we look at forward to the 2040 plan with the BTO, we start to think about that. Where do we want our build out to be? Some people, I'm sure, think that we're at 110% right now and would like us to just stop. But then some other people are thinking, yeah, 80% sounds good, and some more are thinking, well, let's bring on the 4-star hotel. So all of those options have some consequences there, and I think that's what's exciting about this 2040 plan that we'll be reviewing and talking about and seeing what other communities look like and what they've done and how that's affected their business and their communities.
You know, one thing that we did do recently, we increased the prices of TDRs. Our transfer density right, the town will buy land in the backcountry, will come with a certain amount of density, or town and county, and we'll bank that. And up to now, up to about 6 months ago, the TDR price was like 40 something.
43.
You know, and so you could buy a TDR, a transfer density, and pretty much as soon as you buy it, it's worth 3 times what you paid for it. And forever we were thinking it's just too cheap. It just made up zoning too easy, and it put just a lot of stress on the infrastructure. We've upped it from like what 40 something to 90 something.
82.
You know, and I still think it's too cheap. And I think there's varying opinions up here what build out should be. You know, personally, I think it was last week, but with property comes property rights. But I also I believe that, you know, we're kind of like a debutante at last call. I don't think we have to be that. I think we can be picky, and so I think what we can do is answer the property rights. You know, conform to what they have bought, but not make it too easy to upzone unless there's massive community benefit. It's one person's opinion.
No, regarding the question of build out, I'm going to address it 2 ways. One is there are things that the town can do to slow down development or even to eliminate some of the development that would be available in the future. You know, one of the items is what Aaron and Jeffrey just mentioned is, you know, you can change the price of your TDRs to make them more expensive. There are communities in Colorado, mountain communities, that are charging $200,000 to $250,000 per TDR. We're at $82,000. There are other levers that we can look at. Other levers are such as, you know, we build a lot of workforce housing, and that does have an impact also. We want workforce housing, but it also has an impact on our infrastructure. Right now, for every 4 units of workforce housing that we build, we basically remove 1 density unit from, let's call it, the bank of density units. If you wanted to play with that formula a little bit, you begin to minimize or eliminate, again, the amount of development that can be done in the future. You can also look at your development code. There are ways perhaps to tweak the development code to make it a little more strenuous in order just to proceed with development. Not to stop it or slow it down, but to perhaps control it a little more. So there are different levers that can be used by town council to basically determine at the end of the day just how much more density will be put into the town of Breckenridge. And those are discussions I think council is looking to have as we move forward. Now the other, I think, thing to look at, and we've mentioned it a couple times, is this 2040 study. What that means to me, set aside all the fancy terms and all the consultants that are going to be working on it, and things that are above my pay grade. But at the end of the day, I think what the objective is, it's really to understand how much additional growth Breck can expect over the next 5, 10, 20 years, so that we can anticipate and begin to plan for what additional infrastructure and services will we need in order to handle that growth. And remember, the growth is going to come from a couple areas. Our build-out, which we were just talking about a few minutes ago, the growth on the Front Range, and the incredible marketing organizations that we have in this community that basically market to destination visitors, whether that be Vail Resorts, our own Breck Tourism Office, which is marketing not to the Front Range at all, but to destination, as well as our own build-out. All of those three factors will contribute significantly to our growth. So as we begin to accumulate this information and get an understanding of what this means to our infrastructure and to the level of services that we're going to have to provide, it's going to be important to bring the community into these conversations in order to have the community kind of decide and give us signals as to what their vision is for Breckenridge, where we all live, over the next 5, 10, 20 years. And that becomes the, what do they want it to feel like? What do they want it to look like? It becomes the vision. Because at the end of the day, with an understanding of what Breck could look like, but we want to temper that with what the community wants Breck to look and feel like. I think the final deliverable from these studies that are going to be done, one's going to be a demand capacity analysis that's going to be led by our senior staff in community development, as well as the BTO looking at tourism strategies. We've got this growth coming, and we want to be able to come up with some solutions and be able to manage this growth that's coming our way, but at the same time doing it in a way where it meets the vision of the community. And that's really going to be the balance, and that's what I hope that we see over the next year, these studies that are going to be, again, led by the town for one aspect of it, and the BTO by another aspect. So at the end of the day, we say, okay, we see what's coming. The town, we've decided as a community, this is sort of where we want it to limit. And so what can we do from controls, management, and solutions to try to keep things at this level and not let it spill over the dam, if you will. And again, I think that all gets back to at the end of the day in terms of controlling our growth, what's our build-out going to look like, and do we at the end of the day have a very comfortable and livable community, which is why we're all here and enjoy Breckenridge so much. So I just kind of wanted to pull those things together.
And I think the term build out, we've got to be careful. It's not like we're going to say we have 12 lots left available in Breckenridge and that's it, then we're done building. What we're seeing the trend in resort communities, and this is going to be huge with our planning department, is so many scrape and rebuilds. We've seen this happen over in Vail, or in Jackson Hole. It's a huge issue right now as well. And so we've seen that happen here in Breckenridge. The most notable of a business is the new Residence Inn, which used to be the old Breck Inn on the south end of town. I think we can all now say that eyesore was taken down and we have a nice new hotel that people are enjoying and has been a really, I think, benefit for our town. And then on French Street, we have the Residence, the old round house on the north end of French Street that was recently scraped down. And now they're building a new home there. So I think that's going to be our trend over the next decade or so, and that's what we're going to see in Breckenridge. So it's important, I think, for our community to have a voice in how we want that to look and what we prioritize when people tear property down and rebuild.
Anyone else?
What worries me as much as build out is, or where Buildout is the complexion of our community changing with VRBOs. And what once often was a kind of a local neighborhood, a mix between short-term rentals and locals, now as people cash out or people come in and buy a property, often there's a change of the mix in the neighborhood. And I don't even have a clue what to do about it, but other communities are trying to do something about it. Some I think ill-advised, and others I think make sense. I mean, we're talking Vail, I know Tahoe is doing, and we're looking at that, but we still have to do some studies and probably have some pretty lively debates up here about it.
The whole build-out discussion is something that we grapple with and have grappled with for years. The whole killing the golden goose thing has been, somebody coined that a long time ago and everybody still uses it, but it's the truth. I mean, every year we have more uncomfortable days in town. It used to be 5, then it was 15, then we talk about 20, and then 30. Hell, now it feels like there's 60, and some of them are in May. So it's just, it's changed. And the last guy in the door is the one that says, hey, it's time to shut the door, but that's just not gonna happen. We gave most of this away in the 60s and 70s when nobody was here, and property rights got put on some of these pieces of land, and now people have a right to develop their property. They have a right to do remodels within the confines of the town's code. So, as a council, we have sort of a limited. Gary did a great job of outlining what we can do, but it's still pretty limited. So the council feels. I don't mean to speak for the whole council, but the council, I think, feels that with the growth in Denver, it's our job to manage the experience now, and not just for the people coming to visit, but for you people in the room, to manage the roads and the lighting and the transit, and to make those uncomfortable days more tolerable. The rec center's bigger. The bus system is bigger. Paid parking, love it or hate it, was done to even some things out too. So it's something that we grapple with all the time. And maybe the question about build-out was strictly about how many more homes were we gonna get here? But this is a really broad category that we discuss at almost every meeting, almost every coffee talk, almost every time two of us are together. It's the thing that we care about most, is where is this community heading? And how are we gonna make sure that when we get there, we still wanna be here? Because it is way different than when I moved here. I know it's different than when Carol moved here, or the Harrises, you look around the room, there's a lot of people that have been here forever. My buddy Ace was one of the first guys I met when I moved to town, and then he left. I'm sure when he came back, he was like, what did you guys do to this place? It used to be so little and quaint. But so that's what we feel our chore is to try to manage it for everybody in this room, to make it so that those terrible days aren't as terrible as they could possibly be. So.
Well, and I think workforce housing, when we look at that precious last 20%, I think that's why workforce housing is so important, because we can't see this turnover keep happening with, so many locals, when they sell their homes and they move on, they're selling to second homes, and that's then being rented out as VRBO, short-term rental. And so you're creating that need for more service, but yet we don't have that workforce to back it up. And so that's what a lot of times causes that stress of people being overworked, we're too busy, and yet nobody can hire. And so I think that's also why workforce housing to us is so important. And you all know this, how hard it is to hire right now. And so we're trying to help alleviate some of that. But I think, like as Jeffrey is saying, at some point, that's not gonna be enough. Policy might have to come into play as well.
Well, we've only got so much land at the end of the day to
Yep.
be able to put wholesale type housing into the marketplace for our employees. And so there will come a day, and it's coming pretty soon. Block 11 is, give it 5 years, as Rick was saying earlier. We will have built out Block 11 with another couple hundred units, and then that'll be it. And then after that, any housing is going to be really incremental. You're going to be able to count it on, one hand at a time in terms of how many more units you're going to be able to put into the mix. good thing is that we're seeing a lot of the other communities in Summit County beginning to really step up more aggressively and really start addressing some of the workforce housing issues, that they have in Silverthorne and Frisco and whatever. So, that's a little bit helpful, because up until a year or so ago, it was really Breck providing the workforce housing for a good portion of this, for this county. So it's just nice to see us getting a little more balanced out. But again, I don't want to be on council, and I won't be at the time when we don't have any more property in order to put significant housing onto it, and yet growth is still coming. And that's why it's going to be so important to get this vision from the community, so that we can try to find levels that are acceptable to the community vis-a-vis, the growth and the infrastructure that the town can afford to support and finance. Because we're talking about, more parking, we're talking maybe road widening. It's going to be a lot of things to handle a lot of significant growth that's going to continue to come if we don't have some solutions to be able to somehow, manage it, control it, slow it down. I don't know what the answers are, but these are the things that, as Eric said, we think about, talk about, and we'll have to deal with it over the next few years.
Thanks, Gary.
So,
All right. Are there any more?
We didn't have any more questions. We did have one person who asked if you were gonna talk about recycling waste, pay as you throw, or save as you
Yes, we
recycle.
will. Let me get to these last couple that I have, and then we can do recycling if we have time. Does the town have a local procurement strategy? We have amazing talent in the town, tech, product sourcing. Let me editorialize for a moment. During the downturn, when the recession hit, I was on council, and we had a group of local builders who came to town fairly heated that the town wasn't hiring them to do projects. So we sort of pushed some projects to some local developers, contractor builders, at the time to sort of help through the recession. Fast forward to 2018, James and the engineering department have a terrible time trying to get bids from local contractors. Now, this will come around again. So while we may not have a procurement strategy per se, when we need something, we put it out to the community. The problem is currently, the community here is so busy. That's why oftentimes you'll see people from Denver doing work for the town. Oftentimes the locals are just too busy to do it, can't get the concrete, can't get whatever. And then sometimes with like the water plant, it's sort of tack above what you can find locally. So, second one on that one, BTO does amazing work. However, their mission is to market only out of state. Breckenridge / Vail Corp, I don't know that I like that, but markets the Epic Pass. Who markets in-state? Our state is growing, lots of high-tech and growth. We need local in-state marketing.
I can talk.
Yeah, Wendy, have it.
The BTO, I think, has really evolved very well over the last few years and really looked at marketing strategies that will serve this community best. And as we know, the ski area has quite a big marketing effort. Their marketing effort, however, in the last few years has shifted to the Epic Pass, and of course that kind of changes. So, the Epic Pass invites you to purchase that pass and then, ski anywhere. It's not talking very specifically about the destination. It's talking more about the flexibility you have by buying the Epic Pass. So when the BTOs looked at that, they feel like they really have to spend some effort on continuing to market and develop our brand. And the BTO's charge is not to market specifically the ski area, but more to focus on the amenities and the wonderful character of our town. And that presents an interesting thing in Breckenridge, because actually more people statistically come for the town than they do actually the ski area. even though both, work together and are very popular. So the BTO really puts its efforts into what's called destination marketing. So that is, people who are coming for a longer stay, who are coming more from out of state, and the reason for doing that is that gives you more of an opportunity to fill the lodging on a week-long basis rather than the Thursday through Sunday or just a night or so. The kind of strategy that gets you the few nights stay is more of a front range or in-state kind of effort. And while we're in this, very good economy situation, it's a better strategy. It's better for the town. It's better for the infrastructure. It's better for actually, bringing in people who probably will spend more money if you go after that destination visitor. And that gives also the businesses less peaks and valleys during the week. If you just went for kind of the weekenders, then the restaurants aren't going to be busy on Monday. And so the BTO works that way. However, they always have sort of the backup plan if something happens or softens in the economy. And things have happened over the years when there's been either a forest fire that scares people away or some other event that may cause visitors to suddenly cancel their plans. The BTO is prepared to infill with different marketing strategies, and that's what you really want in a marketing organization, or is the flexibility to try to keep the flow coming even, not too much. Try to hold off the surges. Try to shore up the valleys, and kind of keep it as even as you can and on a year-round basis. And that's the strategy that the BTO team has been doing for the last few years. And it's really wonderful to watch them do their work. And an in-state strategy it's just not. We don't need more surge visitation on a 1 or 2 night basis. Right now in a good economy, we simply, that simply is not going to help us keep away from those more peak days, too many surge days. So that's really, I hope that.
So I have a couple of things to add too. So the BTO does advertise for snow sculptures and Oktoberfest and in state, and that's good because those are times that we really need people to come, and that's what they've decided with their analytics, and especially Oktoberfest, that's when things start to slow down. And same thing with snow sculptures. But what we have seen, a few months ago, we were looking at our financials, and lodging was down, but yet restaurant and retail were still quite a bit up. And Lucy from the BTO stated that it was because of that weekend visitor. We have the strong weekend visitor already. Our reputation is great within the state of Colorado. They know how to get here. They know about us already. So I think that we just have a really good reputation, and so that has given us legs. So if for whatever reason we decide that it's not a good idea, which I think it very much is because of those peaks, we don't want to have those peaks and valleys. We want people to have consistent work and consistent business. But that's still there. We still see the peaks over the weekends because people know about us already. And yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah. That was it.
Oh, I know what I was gonna add. BCA, other organizations do market within Denver. I mean, within up on the Front Range and in the state, like BCA, and so they've had success with that.
What's BCA?
Breckenridge Creative Arts. Thanks for asking.
All right.